Hello and welcome to our extended coverage of the 6th annual Gauteng Environmental Research Symposium. Today we'll explore Gauteng's pressing environmental challenges and of course discuss innovative solutions. My name is Bongani and joining me today are Mrs. Basani Ndidani, the director from the hosting institution, which of course is the Gauteng Department of Environment, and the renowned sustainability expert, UJ's very own, Dr. Clarissa Muir. And of course, we're also going to be joined by Negi Bakunye, who is a project management team member. And of course, each of my guests here will bring a wealth of knowledge and experience in their respective fields, which will make this conversation a rich and one that you would not want to miss. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's an honor to have you all. For the audience, I would like each and one of you to introduce themselves to the audience with just a brief background, starting with you.
Thank you very much, Bongani. So my name is Basani Ndidani. I'm the Director for Environmental Policy, Planning and Coordination. Within the province, we are responsible for developing all the policy requirements in terms of our state of environment reporting, as well as our environmental research, dealing also with climate change matters, developing the policies and coordinating climate change response in the province. And also, we are also responsible for intergovernmental coordination. Now, specific to why we are here today is we also manage the collaboration agreement that we have with the University of Johannesburg. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Dr. Clarissa, a brief background.
Thanks, Bongani. Clarissa Muir from the Department of Strategic Communication at the University of Johannesburg. And all my research, as well as many of the courses that I teach, revolves around sustainability. So my own studies very much focuses on not just environmental, but also social and governance issues in sustainability. And I am exceptionally proud to say, our students are really being embedded in the concept by having done these courses from undergrad right through to PhD level. Yes,
amazing, yes.
Thoroughly enjoy it. Hope that, I think the university strategy that has changed to sustainability is also definitely to our advantage in terms of fit for future.
Yes, indeed. Oh, thank you for that. Ms. Negi, can you give us a little bit of background about yourself as well?
Yes, thank you very much, Bongani. I am currently working under the Research and Development Unit under the Directorate Environmental Policy Planning and Coordination. I am very much passionate about sustainability, hence finalizing my master's in sustainability but focusing on digital tools. So, thank you.
That is indeed amazing. As for you, the viewer who's watching us, I did mention that my panel, my guests are going to bring us a wealth of knowledge and experience, as you've heard from the introduction. Basani, in your background, you did mention that the matter of today, of course, one would ask the overview of this year's symposium and the aims and actually what it aims to achieve. Can you kind of give us an overview of this year's symposium?
Okay, thank you very much, Bongani. So this year's symposium really looks at sustainability overall in terms of policy, and then further drilling into your best practice, but also then focusing on implementation. So we as a province, especially our unit, it's a policy-driven unit, so there's a lot of policy that we ourselves have developed, but also from generally wider stakeholders, there's a lot of policy around sustainability. But the focus and the call for action for this particular symposium is that we need to move away from just developing policies, but rather focus on the implementation, because that's where we will see the maximum impact around the work that we do. So that is what then the research symposium is going to focus on, because we want to call all different stakeholders to say it's time for implementation. Let's then work together in terms of sustainability practice, in terms of ensuring sustainable development.
And that's where, Dr. Clarissa, where I'd like to bring you in, where there's a need for implementation. Why aren't people implementing policies?
Bongani, I think it starts with the fact that there is insufficient enforcement mechanisms. And those mechanisms that are not enforced leads to people that do not meet what the expectations are with regards to those policies, etc. And the repercussion of that is monitoring suffers, and the fact that people have to feed back into the system properly to keep the system going. On top of that, we have an issue with public engagement and public awareness around implementation. And people do not know what they don't know. If we do not engage and we're not aware, we cannot contribute as a community. Now that brings me to another major issue, which is, I think, not just a provincial, local, national, or global issue, and that is funding and resources. When it comes to sustainability, it is a wicked and challenging problem. So implementation becomes an issue because the resources and the funding that we need is not necessarily available. And that being said, many times the process is hampered with bureaucracy, which just makes the reaching that goal of implementing this policy in a very simplistic way and making it work so much more difficult. So I think at the end of the day, the various challenges all culminate in making implementation so much more difficult on various levels. And we need to note that it is complex to implement something on a large scale, like provincial or national level. So one mustn't obviously forget that.
Forget that, indeed. And Negi, what would be your thought as well on like maybe some of the reasons why policies are not being implemented?
Thank you very much for the question. As both speakers have highlighted, that yes, it is evidence that policies are being developed. But then when you come back to some of the issues Clarissa said about resources, then comes in the question which you asked, why are they not being implemented? In many cases, as indicated in the problem statement of this symposium, you find that policies are being developed but not addressing the challenges that exist in the ground. Take, for example, we have in the MTDP problem, one of the priorities, which is economic development through job creation. There's lots of policies that are created without involvement of the communities themselves. Hence, then we have wrong medication for the wrong diagnosis. So for us to be able to create, to implement policies that actually contribute, we must diagnose the problem and put it out there for what it is. If it's theoretical inefficiency, then let it come out that maybe there's a lot of theoretical inefficiency, that policies are driven by political agenda, because in most cases when they are created to serve a particular purpose, which is in most cases not aligned with improvement of communities. So in this shift, it's not only about now shifting from developing policies to practice, but also realizing the gaps that exist between when policies are initiated to when they're actually implemented, as well as finding out if they really served any purpose to the communities. Thank you, Bongani.
Oh, that is holistic. And now I have a view as well why those policies are not being implemented and the aims of this year's symposium. But Basana, I would also like to know, we've been saying symposium. One would ask, like myself, what is the symposium about and when did it start?
So this is our 6th annual research symposium. So we host, as a department, this symposium on an annual basis. We bring various stakeholders that would partner with us, dependent on a particular topic for that financial year. So the purpose or the reason why, or maybe let me give a bit of a background where we started as a department. We initially started as what we used to call brown bag sessions, internal sessions in the department, where we would bring ourselves as the department, various units, and then we would share. We then saw a need that it's important that we partner with stakeholders, we partner with various institutions in order to really make the process more meaningful. As government, we cannot develop policies on our own without engaging stakeholders. That's why it's critical that we have such a symposium that discuss, that come up with solutions in terms of the problems that we've identified. Particularly with this theme for this year is that we've seen that there is indeed gaps in terms of the implementations that we have developed as government, and therefore we then bring the various stakeholders together to then find collaborative solutions. It's important that we work with various stakeholders. So particularly this symposium we are hosting with University of Johannesburg, as I indicated. Part of capacitating our research and development unit, we have partnered with the University of Johannesburg, so we've got a signed MOU with, or an MOA with the University of Johannesburg, which together on an annual basis, obviously then bringing various partners that would then join us and partner with us to host the symposium together. We've seen the symposium grow over the past 6 years. Since last year, we've introduced the student track, which also this year was part of a build-up to the research symposium. So it's an ongoing program. We will continue with the program. So there is that commitment that we'll continue with the program because we see it as a key driver in terms of our evidence-based policy decision-making. We don't want to sit alone and develop policies. We've seen there's a gap for implementation, but it's important that we address those gaps. So we use this research symposium to identify what are the gaps, what are the possible solutions that we then need to come up, particularly to particular themes. So every research symposium has had a theme related to it, but also that theme for that particular year, we also look at community-based, what does it address in the community level? Last year, we really did a lot of focus around waste management, around what we call TISH, which was our township and informal settlements. This year, we are moving further, not forgetting our TISH areas, but also then bringing in another key set in terms of skill set into the process. So every year, we look at how then can this symposium grow in terms of addressing the needs of the province, in terms of addressing the policy directives of the province. We've seen, as Negi indicated, there's what we call the MTDP, the Medium-Term Development Plan. Okay. Part of that priority area is evidence-based research and policy making. So this, then, the research symposium is a driver towards us producing as a department around sustainability, around environmental management, around waste management, around air quality, around climate change, around biodiversity, holistically looking at all the pillars of sustainability. So it is quite important that we have such stakeholder engagement processes, which then the research symposium is but one of them, that we use as a stakeholder. And also for us, it's important that we bring in the youth. That's why partnering with a high learning academic institution is also important. We learn new things, we learn new ways of doing these things, which is quite important in terms of our process.
And it really does.
It really does. So that's where we come from in terms of historically. It's a program we host annually. It's a program we want to see that will grow and ensure that it's part of what is happening within the province.
And I'm proud to be part of the sixth one, and I'll attend.
Yes,
definitely.
100%.
Yeah. So since I have you on this one, before I call in Dr. Clarissa, I just want to find out who is the GDARDE?
The GDRAD, I suppose you mean the Gauteng Department of Agriculture and Rural Development,
okay.
Which since the 7th administration, our department is a standalone department, so it's a Gauteng Department of Environment. So that's where historically we come from. As you would have seen, the previous ones were hosted by GDARD, what we call GDAD. Yes. But this year's one particularly is being hosted by the Gauteng Department of Environment. It's a continuing program. It's just that obviously in the 7th administration, we've got the standalone department, which we are also using as a platform, or we're using to our advantage to upscale the program, to ensure that we've got more, in the next coming years, we have more students participating in the program, we've got more stakeholders participating in the program.
Well, that is growth. That is growth, as you indicated. Dr. Clarissa, I'd like to find out the purpose of the environmental policy. What is its importance and its purpose?
I think a policy is extremely important because it gives us structure, it gives us a goal, and it also directs teams. So in terms of an environmental policy, the policy is always easy to read and easy to understand. But to make it come to life and bring that policy into practice takes so many stakeholders, as Bongani just indicated to us. And I think with the symposium, it gives us just another platform, and I'm talking about us as if I'm part of the department. But it does, and you can see my enjoyment of the symposium. it really gives an opportunity for stakeholders to get together, to discuss that environmental policy, to look at key trends, to look at what the issues are that we need to take cognizance of at this point in time, but also look at, almost put on a lens, a different lens, and say, if we have to now reassess ourselves as partners, as stakeholders, as what is my role to play? So in an environmental policy, we know that we are in trouble as a country and as the globe. And I think the purpose of an environmental policy at this point in time is to also remind us that 2030 is not that far away. And we're going to wake up, and you know, the SDGs are not going to disappear. We are going to reinvent that and create new goals. And the policies that we create now needs to be fit for future. So we're not going to have to wait until the 1st of Jan of 2030. We really need to think about how we're developing our policies now based on our performance up to now.
Interesting. It kind of takes me back to the UJ Future Reimagined. So actively reimagining the future, policies that now should also be cognizant of the future that is coming. So I'm touched by what you're saying, to say, yeah.
Reimagining is one of the most difficult things to do, because people, when they do get comfortable, especially in terms of roles or being a stakeholder to a specific party, it's human nature to think, you know, we're okay for now. But I think we realize with the challenges of sustainability, specifically environmental sustainability, that we are in a predicament. And I think policy plays a major role in driving the process and making things happen.
Yeah, true. Negi, for me, I want to find out the objectives of this year's symposium.
Okay, thank you very much, Bongani. First of all, we are trying to integrate nature-based solutions in order for us to achieve climate resilience. As the director has said, that there were, since last year, there were elements of waste management. Hence, this year, we still bring it back because it's a huge element in sustainability, but refocusing it to circular economy. And we're also looking at decentralized renewable energy, as I believe all your viewers would know that we are currently experiencing a lot of challenges when it comes to electricity or power supply, hence load shedding. Hence now we are looking on how to decentralize the renewable energy and incorporate it into the existing power grids. And then my favorite one, as I said before, that I'm passionate about technology. There's the AI for predictive analytics, which it's a big thing everywhere. AI is taking over, so we're also bringing that element into the symposium. Thank you.
Yeah, it is the present moment. AI is at the forefront, and it's an evolution, it's a revolution. But moving right along, from all the speakers, I've been getting a sense that partnership is important, collaboration is important. I'd just like to find out the way the symposium, as well as other outputs and outcomes of the government's efforts in your areas of expertise. So how has collaboration actually affected the way that the symposium actually works, especially looking at this 6th annual one?
Partnership is quite important and collaboration is quite important. As government or as the department, we usually look at partnership as a way where we partner to upscale our programs, and not necessarily only from a financial perspective, but also from a skills and development perspective, because we want to bring in the various expertise within the research topics. So the symposium enables us to form partnerships with regards to various experts who would come in from from private sector, from non-governmental organizations, from high institutions of higher learning, like academic institutions, your research institutions. It's quite important that we as government, we cannot do it alone. We don't have all the expertise. Yes, we've got expertise in different fields in terms of our policy development, in terms of waste management, air quality. We've got the system, as we've said, we've got the policies. We've developed the policies. Yeah. But in terms of the impact and the implementation, we need various key role players. We need the experts to come and guide the discussion. We need the experts to come and share lessons learned, so that as we then move into the next research topic, we already have some guidance in terms of expertise from various stakeholders. So partnership plays a very critical role, even specific for this symposium, as with the other symposium. When we identify a topic, for example, this year it's around sustainability, it's around implementation. We've got Dr. Kariseng as one of our experts. But we also bring in other experts in the field. We bring experts in private sector, we bring in experts within the various research institutions, because they then guide, or they input into the decision making. They input into what ultimately is then the direction that we are going to take.
Interesting. And Dr. Clarissa, with you being now an expert coming also into the picture, what are some of the roles and benefits that this partnership really bears, maybe from a university perspective, as you are going in, we are renowned, and from the University of Johannesburg, what are some of the benefits that are there through this partnership?
Thanks, Bongani. I think one of the key words in our current age is the word co, because a lot revolves around co-creation, collaboration, and it basically refers to dialogue. And like Atias Basane, right, has just indicated, the partnership is crucial to both the university and the government department. Reason being, we have the advantage of then not just doing capacity building, but also doing training on various levels, having robust conversations about key issues that people don't usually talk about in meetings or in their daily office lives or daily leadership roles. And that gives us an opportunity to do blue sky thinking, to move away from thinking a lot of people, I shouldn't make the assumption, but we almost have that element of green where we talk about environment. And we need to open up the thinking and say, but what are the possibilities in terms of going into the future? I think partnerships like these are crucial, and it's not just about the collaboration with various entities that we have MOUs or MOAs with. But I think, and Negi can back me up on this one, as she was part of the process where we collaborate as an institution, and we're very grateful for these partnerships, because that gives me the opportunity to then brief my students, postgrad and undergrad, on real life wicked problems. So last week, proof in the pudding is last week with the ESG conference. As UJ, we took the top 5 out of 120 entries across Africa, where the conference organizers give the students briefs on a sustainability challenge, and they then have to come up with innovative solutions. So Negi, as a master's student last year, was one of the top 5 groups, and this year they've actually extended it, because at opportunities and connection points like these, we get opportunities for the students, but we also get the opportunity as stakeholders and as citizens to contribute to the process. So partnerships, I do believe that any training should never be based on hypothetical situations. There are enough real-life problems that we need to solve. So let's not create imaginary situations and train people on those. Let's have them, there are great minds out there. Let's solve the sustainability issue, if solve is the right word, which we can't do. But let's improve it day by day with the young, amazing minds that we do have at institutions like these.
And Negi is one of the minds that we're talking about here. Negi, what's your perspective, though, on collaboration and partnership?
I don't know if I should speak on the student leg or as the government leg. Because yes, I'm a student, but I'm also a government employee. Hence, I have relationships with both. But from my observation is that it is through partnerships that we are able to capacitate each other. both ways, where institutions can offer courses, and on our side we can then bring in our hands-on expertise on the different fields. So yes, there's a lot of capacity building which goes both ways, and there's also the sharing of resources, where, for instance, if you check a lot of government departments, they'll tell you about capacity issues, understaffed, which is prevalent everywhere. But then it's through these partnerships that we are able to share resources. It may not be physical resources, but then we share knowledge and we're able to build each other and help each other to come up with policies that can actually be implementable. Thank you.
It takes me to the saying that umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. A person is a person by other person. We need to hold each other's hands and tackle the problems that actually combat society at large. But in all this, the community is also important. Community and education. How do we involve community? How do we engage with community? Of course, the symposium intends and aims to be a bridge and also to cover that. But how can we improve on community engagement?
How we can improve on community engagement is, for example, the student track. So the student track is important for us because through influencing the younger generations, we take that they can take this home, and then through mainstreaming, that then has a direct influence in terms of what happens underground. But as a department, we do have programs that are targeted at youth development, that are targeted at community level. With regards to or related to the theme of the research symposium, I can talk to a program that we have together again with University of Johannesburg, where we are training youth on solar PV training in terms of looking at our just transition processes. How do we upskill the upcoming youth in terms of the agenda of the day? Renewable energy is the agenda of the day. Now, we then train the communities, or we train the youth within the communities as part of skills development, as part of SMME and enterprise development. In the department, we do have community-based programs that are led by our sister directorate, Environmental Empowerment Services, which then focuses on how we work with the community. They've got women empowerment programs, they've got youth empowerment programs, they've got youth development programs, they've got training programs where they're training various youth, women of various levels in terms of ecosystem-based approaches and technologies. We've got our own climate change campaign where we go into our high schools and teach or maybe impart on knowledge around climate change issues as part of trying to change the mindset at community level. So we don't want to be sitting and developing policies on our own that don't respond to community issues. So we try to find platforms where we engage with the community so that we can then change or also hear what are the problems at community level, experience the challenges at the community level, then come back and develop systems. It's one thing to sit at an office and develop systems, but it's important that you go and experience what is happening at community level so that your responses then respond to the issues on the ground. So it's important that as we move, also at a research agenda level, we then look at what are the issues at community level and how do we then respond, or what do we develop as systems in response to those issues at community level.
Interesting. And as you speaking, following up on that, sustainability is of concern even globally. The United Nations has formulated the Sustainable Development Goals. But why is this theme so important for the province of Gauteng? Speaking on this year's theme, which is sustainability.
Sustainability as a theme is quite important for us because we need to localize the SDGs. We need to implement the SDGs. So our agenda as a whole around environmental sustainability must look at what is it that we're responding to. We need to respond to the global issues around climate change. We need to look at our development challenges around waste management, around health, around poverty, around sustainable livelihoods. So part of our response in terms of the programs that we develop must then look at what are our global issues. Hence, then sustainability becomes key because it looks at the various phases of developmental issues that are being experienced on the ground. We might look at poverty. What would an environment department do around poverty? But you look at sustainable practices in terms of your agricultural practices. You may look at job creation. What would the Department of Environment do around job scarcity? But you look at what are the job creation or the jobs that are created, whether it's green jobs. The green jobs, are they responding to issues on the ground? So sustainability holistically is something that we look at, but also the localization of our SDGs. Dr. Carissa spoke about 2030 is around the corner. A lot of our policies say it's Vision 2030. But we don't want to wake up and then it's 2030 and there's nothing to show in terms of the actions of government. So it's quite important that as we move forward, so the department has various policies. We've got our climate change overarching strategy. Yes, it's a Vision 2030, but already the implementation has started because we need to respond and we need to develop response actions. We've got your net zero guideline 2030, but that net zero guideline then provides a trajectory in terms of how do we move into net zero. We've got air quality management plans. We've got the integrated waste management plan, which then responds on the issues around waste management. We've got biodiversity conservation plans that responds to issues around conservation. So it's quite critical that the issues of sustainability is things that we look at, we localize, we implement in response to the SDGs.
Indeed, indeed. And Dr. Clarissa, adding on why the urgent need to focus on sustainability rather, or why is it so urgent?
Because we don't have a choice. At the end of the day, we will not have a planet left. Our communities are disintegrating. People cannot make a livelihood on a daily basis. And obviously, I think we don't want to wake up one day, and we all know that little story about we've got to show our child an elephant on a picture because they don't exist anymore. Yes. That's exactly why. But we also need to understand that sustainability is something that we do in ourselves. It's a very personal thing. It's something that starts with an individual. It is not a community project, and that's something we need to take cognizance of. It is not a strategy that we roll out. It is, what do I do with this plastic bottle? What do I do with the wipe that I've just used to wash my face and my makeup off? How do I do little things to make a change? And obviously accountability in terms of our citizens are crucial in terms of sustainability. So understanding the concept is important, that it is not something that happens on a higher level. It is something that happens in my life, in my home, and something that I need to take accountability for. Because then only can I integrate myself into a society and play a role and be an opinion leader and get people moving around the concept of sustainability. We see a lot of it happening through brands and how they play it out in their strategies. And a lot of money goes towards that because they need to report on that in their integrated reports. So how are they doing on an environmental, a social and governance level? So some brands really push it hard so that their integrated reports are sterling. But they're really brands that are doing a lot of hard work and taking accountability for themselves as corporate citizens. And I think they play an important role. And I want to go back to the collaboration. Working on a sustainability strategy means that I need to get people to work together. It is not an individual project, like I said, but we also need to make sure that we get our brands and our corporates to buy in and mobilize people in terms of the concept. A very complex concept. And when you think about it and you go home tonight and you really look at your environment, you've got to think about it from an environmental perspective, a social perspective, and then a governance perspective. How do I actually take accountability? Because at the end of the day, sustainability can only be accounted for on 3 levels at this point in time. And we do that on environmental, social, and governance. Many people might say, oh, but I can't do it without money. Sustainability is not a cheap project. It takes money. But at the end of the day, it also takes effort. And that's what I want to put the extra E in. is not necessarily only economics, but the effort around.
Effort as well. Yeah, the extra E for the effort. And which is what the symposium intends on doing actually. It's also putting that extra effort to tackle this concept of sustainability. But I would like to know, maybe Negi, you come in on this. Yes, the symposium is happening. So how can attendees engage with those discussions?
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Bongani. So we are hosting the symposium in a hybrid format where one can either join through the Zoom link, which we'll provide, or come and attend physically. But in preparation to the attendance itself, we have QR codes for the concept notes, which gives a roadmap to the whole symposium, starting by highlighting your problem statements to how we got to the different themes. And so on. We also are hosted in a PITS website, which will also provide a link later. So we have a full web page that's dedicated to information about the symposium. The booklets also on the speakers, so you can get to understand your speakers beforehand, are also on the same QR code as well as the website itself. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Well, with the number of where you can access information, it does show it's not a one-man's job. It is, and I want to take it back to Dr. Clarissa. You mentioned that it is not a one-man's job, but what message would you say to people that are watching us in terms of in efforts to encourage them and surrounding about environmental sustainability, because we need them as well. It's not a one-man's job, because we are looking to the future now. It's key to know your message to how can viewers also be part of this change that we're actually going on?
I think everybody needs to realize that they're a stakeholder. And many times people think, well, I know very little about the topic. I know a lot about recycling. I know a lot about environmental issues, but I don't know if what I say will actually matter. And I think that's where the problem is in societies, is where people need to remember that every contribution can lead to very, I almost want to use the word disruptive innovation. It could disrupt the field in terms of how we think about this. So it is important for people to engage if they feel passionate about the topic, to engage and to contribute, but also to take away and take back into their communities, because as we have various stakeholders involved in a process like this, we've also got to remember that networking and partnerships happens outside of this. So the moment I take this back into my society or back into my workplace, I can make change happen. So my message to every stakeholder, and that being every citizen in this province, is you're a social change agent. Yes. And for you to bring about change, you don't have to be a big name or have a piece of paper which says that you've done a qualification in sustainability.
Powerful, powerful words. Basada, I'd also like to bring you in on this. Your view, what is your message to someone who's watching us right now?
Thanks, Bongani. I think as Dr. Clarissa says, we all can contribute one way or another. And it starts with the little things that we can do at home. It starts with a change in our mindset in terms of how we do things, our behavior, how we can change behavior. Things like separation at source. You can separate waste at home. You can contribute into the recycling agenda. Yes. You can look at using alternative transports that have less emissions, that have less impact on the environment. Usually our head of department has this motto to say, let environment be everyone's business, which then I agree 100% to say, all of us can contribute. It must be our business. It must be our passion to make a difference. So through the research symposium, we must all come together and try and find solutions. We've identified the problems, but the solution doesn't only lie with government or doesn't lie with the experts. It lies with all of us, working together, collaborative efforts, finding means and tools in order of dealing with the social challenges. The other issue is we use these efforts to bring everyone to the table. So we want to call everyone, invite everyone to participate in our 6th annual research symposium, and say, you can contribute, come and participate, let your voice be heard. This is a platform to engage, this is a platform to contribute, this is a platform to actually contribute into the policies of the Gauteng province. So I want to invite everyone, I want to call everyone, I want to call the experts, I want to call the stakeholders, I want to call civil society, I want to call the students. You talk about AI.
Yes.
Students bring the technology.
The technology.
You spoke about reimagining.
Yeah.
We want to hear that because that should then transform our way of thinking, transform our way of doing things. So that would then be my call for action, or my call or my invitation to everyone as the host institution, together with University of Johannesburg and our other partners, is to invite everyone to say, come and let your voice be heard, come and contribute, come and be part of the process, come and be part of the change, because it all starts with us. We all can contribute something.
And it does start with between me and you and everyone that is around you. It is a call to action that you can play your part as a viewer sitting there at home. Make environment your business, as my panelists have said here. And it's been an amazing episode, but I would like to find out from my panelists, starting with Negi, as to your final thoughts, rather, of our conversation today.
Just to wrap up on my side, I would really like to urge everybody to RSVP for the symposium. The QR code to the RSVP form, I believe, will be attached as well. So yes, please do RSVP.
It's definitely one not to miss. So whoever's watching, trust me, the symposium promises to be a great one. So do come through. We'll put the link on the description so you can get the venue and brace yourself for amazing information, right? But final thoughts on everyone. Dr. Clarissa, what are your final thoughts?
If I can, I'd give you two. There are two things which I want as a key takeout. And first is that technology assists us in this process, specifically environmental sustainability, where we can do real-time tracking, we can have real-time data, and we can look at historical data as well as AI to help us in the process of taking this forward. So we need to use that. Taking that in mind as an individual, I need to realize that it's not with environmental sustainability, it's not just a focus on my impact on society, which, and Negi would account for this, an Anthropocene environment, where it means I, as a human being, have a direct negative impact on my environment. It's moved away now to we need to be sustain-centric. We need to look at myself in the system, as Basani said, as a stakeholder. And if we have that mind shift from an anthropocenic environment to a sustain-centric environment, we're definitely making great strides in terms of our mindset.
I'm caught by the word anthropocenic.
Nick.
Almost there. That's a good one. That's a powerful one. Basani, final thoughts?
I so wish I had my own statement, like Anthropocene or Anthropocenic. Yeah. But what I will say, I like the one sustainable-centric, because what I want to leave with the viewers today, or with all stakeholders today, is that it's up to us to make a difference. We can contribute. So I want to urge everyone, or encourage everyone, to say, do the little that you can do, really in the bigger space. That small contribution will ultimately make a difference. So start at home. Let's all change the way we do things. Let's look at how can I contribute to the sustainability agenda. Looking at how do I do things at home. Switching off your lights. Separation at source. Using your water efficiently. All that is a contribution. It is things that we can do at home. So my last thoughts, or my last contribution, is to encourage everyone to say, how can I make a difference? What can I do that can ultimately contribute to the sustainability agenda? Thank you.
He who has ears has heard. I've heard. Powerful closing statements and amazing conversation throughout. I actually got to learn a lot about the symposium, firstly, and the theme that we're tackling now. So I'd like to thank you all for coming through and for educating me and my viewers, the dedicated ones that they are always watching us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
For having us.
Negi, any highlights to look forward to?
Yes, there's quite a lot, Bongani. By attending the symposium, there's a lot of exciting things that one can get or learn from the attendance. For instance, we'll have innovative exhibitions from our partners and stakeholders. And there will also be prize giving for the student track competition, which was a prelude to this event. So the overall winner will not only get the publication prize, but then they'll also be presented, and you'll be able to engage with them in the symposium. So yes, all in all, it's a good networking opportunity. So if you're really interested in the sustainability space or are interested in knowing how we can translate from policy to practice, please be there. Like, you cannot miss this one. Thank you.
Indeed, indeed, you cannot miss this one. As you've heard, so many activities that are going to be happening. I myself, I think I'm going to find myself round about there, because it is important for us to implement the policies that are there, and you are part of the society. Those policies are also meant for you. So do make sure that you find yourself at the symposium, and there are going to be a lot of activities. As mentioned, we have spoken everything today regarding the 6th annual Gauteng Environmental Research Symposium. It's going to be amazing. See you at the symposium. My name is Bongani. Have a lovely day.